All right, here we are once again. Welcome everyone to Write Once, Read Many. Here to discuss chapters 10.1 and 10.2, the exciting start of a new arc. We're off to a fine start. Let me see. We'll have that stream posted. Oh, there we go. Very
Yeah.
nicely.
And we got 2 + 4 × 5 already. So yeah, I'm gonna start the speed draw. Driving to work as usual. Yeah. Well, it's good to have you for a few minutes.
Yes, indeed.
Vale's here. Is this a worm-related podcast? Yeah, more or less.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but surprisingly, yes.
The one of international renown. Definitely not that one. International, shame? Maybe? Who knows?
Interdimensional renown, perhaps.
Well, so as the audience participation reminder, it is thoughts on the flashback chapter, pros, cons, all thoughts accepted. And we can see here some sort of regent and some sort of shadow stalker in the speed draw.
Yeah, it's a nice little scene here, getting to see a little slice of the city post Leviathan.
All right, so we'll get into the themes, I think. I just put bullying and escalation because, like, boy, this is a bigger crime than their other crimes, in my opinion.
Yes, definitely. They kick it up a notch. Like, stealing money from a bank. It's a very abstract sort of crime. But what they do to Sophia in this chapter is straight up pretty horrifying, on a level above and beyond putting bugs up someone's nose.
Yes. They've reached a new low or a new high, depending on who you ask.
By the way, I appreciate the big wag from that dog on the couch.
Yeah. It can tell something's happening.
Oh yeah, it is so happy to be involved.
Let's see here. So, finished product looks it's always better the actual PNG or whatever, because the video is always a bit muddy. But yeah. Vic is here saying, I hate drawing dogs, and there's so many in this book.
Well, too bad. They look adorable.
Yep. Do you have anything more to say on the themes?
I think that I should also probably just call out in general. It's almost sort of part of the escalation is that as part of that, the city has sort of fallen apart a little bit due to the sequential escalation of Bakata into Empire 88 into Endbringer. And we get to see a bit of what the city looks like in this chapter. And I think that's really great for showing, oh, wow, this really has consequences.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's this, and then, I mean, for the foreseeable future, it's just gonna be that the streets always have water, and, like, they can't drive a lot of places. Like, they can go some places, but most places they have to walk. Just a lot of nonsense. A lot of garbage.
Yeah. And even more than before, a large portions of the city have been essentially condemned because all the buildings got just sloshed with water or knocked around. Nothing is really safe anymore. Everyone is sort of scrabbling for resources. It's hard to get a hold of even basic things like electricity, running water that's not on the streets.
Yeah. And Vale saying, I love how the base is described, how it's all reinforced and has amenities nobody else has, and is still a ruined mess. And I agree. It's just like, it's like way worse than the loft. It's like a garbage pile, and they're like, look, we have running water and a water heater.
And a pile of beds in one corner. Hooray!
Yeah. Vic says, if it's not clear, this is Alec and Shadowstalker laughing, but they both wear full coverage masks. Yeah. No, I could tell they were like putting the hand across the shoulder, like ha ha ha,
Ha ha ha.
hee hee hee. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So we'll go with consequences to the status quo. That's what we'll call it. But because I'm not sure what single word would, you know.
I'll contemplate. Anyways, though, we can move on now to 10.1.
Yes. So we're gonna sort of do a chapter each that we almost. I mean, think we basically exclusively wrote our chapters this week, which is a bit of a change up for Greg and I. But let's see here. So yeah, Arc 10 picks up minutes after Arc 9 ends. The Undersiders are entering an abandoned apartment building with Shadowstalker in tow. Gru is like just carrying her. All the factors of the post-Leviathan Brockton Bay make a perfect breeding ground for bugs. The weather is getting warmer, the streets always have water in them, there's no trash services, so garbage is piling up in the watery streets and even in like building hallways. And Skitter is in many ways more powerful than she's ever been, not even needing to send out bugs to scout most areas because of how many are like just everywhere in the city now.
Yeah, Vale actually mentioned during the listen party how we'd mentioned like how Taylor can sort of turn negatives into positives. And this is really one of them where she's like, oh yeah, the city is waterlogged, it's full of trash, there are bugs everywhere.
Yeah. It's like a thing that benefits only her.
Mm-hmm. Well, and mush.
Yes, and mush. Vale and a fully functional TV says, and a fully functional TV plugged in with nobody complaining about it. Yeah.
The height of luxury.
They got that in the base. Let's see here. Skitter is at the head of the group, with Imp walking beside her. Skitter is having to light the way alone, as Imp isn't very professional, and instead of being on flashlight duty like she's supposed to, she's just committing minor vandalism to a building that will most likely be torn down later. Just, some casual knife in wall. I mean, you must be really bored to walk along knifing the wall, if I'm being honest. I've never
I
had
don't
that
know. It's
compulsion.
just a sort of a kid thing, like we just walk along and you just kick at things. But she has a knife.
Yeah. Skitter picks a random open apartment door, and they stop to scout it with the dogs. Angelica is the only one that's powered up at all right now, and the other three are being trained, so they're like, in the Arc 9 scene, we saw that they only power up a little bit because she doesn't want them getting out of control. Um, and then, anyway, sorry. Angelica's still permanently injured from breathing in part of fog in the fight with Empire 88 and Arc 7. So,
I really hope this is saying in Brockton Bay, I got a fog in my throat, and everyone else is like, hey, you mean you got a frog in your throat? And they just respond back with, no, I meant what I said.
yes. Oh boy. Well, hopefully not that many people have got fog in their throat.
Hopefully, but it's Brockton Bay.
True. They head into the apartment, and it's clear that the occupants left in a hurry with all the valuables they could carry, leaving most of the mundane things behind. Tattletale briefly explains that the building was declared uninhabitable by the city in efforts to restore order one area at a time. This happened despite the fact that the building is more livable than most of the city. Tattletale doesn't think anyone will be there by, tonight or tomorrow morning to do whatever, so they'll be fine. It's essentially abandoned. Gru sets Shadowstalker down onto a kitchen chair, and Regent and Tattletale had set down boxes they carried with them into the apartment. Tattletale takes all the weapons, Tinker Tack, and phone, and the earbud as well with the phone from Shadowstalker. And then she's able to determine the GPS hasn't been activated on anything, and they probably won't be looking for her until after she doesn't check in at the end of her patrol. So, like, I think that's because by the time she realized it was a trap, she didn't even have time to do anything. And before that, she was trying to hide her, goings about because she was planning to murder Skitter.
That's true. Yeah, I sort of wondered about that because you'd think that they would have, especially for the wards, their phones tracked at all times to make certain that if something goes wrong, they can find them. But I guess not.
For whatever reason, they can turn it off, and she did. For
Look,
murder.
sometimes you can just turn off your body cam. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Skitter and Regent start pulling extension cords from the box, which Gru uses to tie Shadowstalker to the chair. Gru's being careful with the bindings, and Imp makes fun of him. When he explains that they can't cut off the circulation, she just keeps making more jokes. Instead of responding to that, Gru just tells Imp to get the generator out of the other box. Imp slowly makes her way to the generator and hefts it out as though it's 10 times heavier than it is. She's hamming it up. She's gonna be one of those fun ones like Regent.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Gru duct tapes the wires to Shadowstalker, then attaches two chairs to the one that she's in so she can't, like, throw herself around and break the chair on the floor or whatever. Um, Bitch lays down and glares at Skitter, who reflects on Bitch's feelings that Skitter has betrayed her. Tattletale suddenly says she's awake, despite Shadowstalker not showing any signs of life. She's sitting there pretending to sleep in the hopes that we'll say something. It would be clever, might even work, if I wasn't here.
You want me to read the quotes, by the way?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was just going right into it, but yes, I do want you to. I was going ham. Um,
No trouble. Yeah.
um, Vale's talking
Popping up the
to.
chat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vale says GPS would pinpoint her location next to the corpse of the person who knows her identity, if the PRT ever cared to investigate. Well, I suspect that even if she did, be one of those things where we have investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm. Nothing bad ever happened in the PRT.
Nothing
Um,
bad ever happened in any PRT.
exactly. After the ruse is no longer useful, Shadowstalker looks around at her restraints, then the Undersiders. She says,
Electrical cords.
acknowledging what they've done. Tattletale points out that there's cord below the chair as well, so she can't just fall through the floor in her shadow state.
You'll be a little groggy. The fight took a lot out of you, and we tased you, and I took the liberty of sticking you with one of your own tranquilizer bolts. You don't hold back. Says the person who tried to slit my teammate's throat. Tough costume. Well, you fuckers got me. What's next?
Skitter's a little incensed at the idea that Shadowstalker is not even trying to deny the attempted kill. And after she asks them what's next, they all look to Regent, who looks at her and runs his fingers through his hair. Realizing what's about to happen, Shadowstalker says,
No. Fuck. Have you seen his files? You don't know.
Tattletale cuts in and says, they have an idea. Then Regent asks for them to gag her and for privacy. Tattletale uses some of the excess cord and duct tapes the gag onto her face. Regent says he needs some time, but it's variable based on how Shadowstalker, resists, basically. Anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours. The group leaves the kitchen where Regent is set up with Shadowstalker, and they all try and get some rest. Bitch was asleep on the couch with the dogs. Angelica was small again, so no powered up dogs. All the extra monster flesh and blood was in the corner of the room, and Imp keeps hounding Gru to let her watch TV or a movie.
Hounding. Anyways, I want everyone keeping an eye out for trouble. Sorry. Gosh, I can't read. I want everyone keeping an ear out for trouble. You agreed to follow my orders, didn't you? No TV, no lights.
Yes. It seems like they might keep arguing, so Tattletale jumps in with,
One of the people who lived here was a teenager, a little younger than you, Imp. Go find the bedroom, see if there's anything interesting. Anything left behind will probably get stolen before the family gets back. So you could keep some stuff for yourself if you find anything good.
Imp likes the idea of stealing and goes to steal a few things while they're here. Um,
It's tiring dealing with her. All of us irritated each other when we first joined the team. Give it time. We'll find a rhythm, Tattletale reassured him.
Gru turns to Skitter and almost says something about that she's the exception to that, but stops himself from saying anything and goes to sleep in a bedroom until it's his turn to take watch. Shadowstalker screams through the gag as he's walking away, and he pauses for a second, then continues down the hallway. Skitter hugs her arms to herself. She's not cold. She just can't fully deal with what they're doing.
I did appreciate a bit during the listen party as well, where Taylor's like, it was peaceful if it weren't for the screaming.
Yeah.
Anyways, you okay with this? Tattletale asked. All in, was all I could say. She smiled a little, almost apologetic. All in.
Taylor tells herself that they're doing all this to Sophia, running down the list of things she's done to her, the violence and petty humiliation, the trigger event, and less than an hour ago trying to kill Skitter because it was inconvenient that she knew Shadowstalker's face under the mask.
And with all that in mind, I couldn't be sure that she deserved this.
Yeah. So whatever's happening with all the screaming and such, and Regent, it's pretty bad. Tattletale curls up in an armchair under a blanket, listening to her MP3 player and messing with the stolen earbud from Shadowstalker. Skitter moves a chair into place and then takes a moment to start setting up defenses throughout the building with the bugs that are already there. She puts spider silk across every doorway, hallway, and stairwell throughout the building and marks everyone in and around the apartment block with a fly to track them. Deciding on extra caution since they're on the lookout for capes as well as normal people, she sets webs on the balconies as well. 2 plus 4 times 5 saying, maybe they'd have something lighter in tone than Maggie Holt, like the Animorphs series. Wait, actually, I don't know if that was published in this universe. Also, Animorphs is pretty dark.
Well, yeah, it gets really dark. I suppose it even starts a bit dark if it's one of those things where, like, as a kid, the dark tone flies a little bit over your head initially.
Yeah, but like I feel like even by book 7, which is my favorite one because it's so good. They're
Although, of
like,
course, I think if they want some real light reading material, you go for the Love Bug comic adaptation.
yes, Love Bug.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good.
The Maggie Holt novels are even darker, though. Yeah, they would be.
Let's see here. So, Skitter sits down in an armchair and starts reading by moonlight while she's using her power for lookout. She's still pointed toward the door in case something happens in the kitchen. Skitter is able to read for a little while, but then gets more and more distracted by Shadowstalker's muffled scream. There's a little texture about the dogs and Bitch sleeping and Tattletale playing a game on the MP3 player and Gru turning in bed, unable to sleep soundly, probably because of all the screaming.
Oh.
And then Imp's in the other bedroom picking through things, holding them up to the moonlight to get a better look at what she's got. And then things are getting weird in the kitchen. Skitter thinks that she can sense Regent is alright, but then Shadowstalker seems to be going in and out of her shadow state a lot, which Skitter thinks might be involuntary uses of her power that she has to stop before she intersects with the electrical cables. Skitter tries to calm herself down and read the book, but realizes that she's not taking in the information and closes the book to focus on her lookout duty. Let's see here.
I was here to say goodbye to 2 plus 4 times 5. You have a wonderful day at work, sir.
Bye! Yeah. And then what we got next? So, after she checks through all the people in the building, she realizes that Regent isn't moving at all in his chair, and suddenly Shadowstalker is gone from hers. Which?
Fuck! I shouted, standing. Ow!
Bitch and Tattletale are up quick. Tattletale is alarmed. Skitter freezes or realizes that Shadowstalker is behind her. Bugs flow out of her costume to fight, but Shadowstalker gets to her too quick, grabbing her wrist and shoving her to the ground with a crossbow right in her face. Just
Full
like
on,
waving a
right
gun.
behind you
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. But also, like, it just, I don't know, it makes me think of many a given wave a gun in your face, but because it's a crossbow, it's kind of sillier. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Still deadly, but there's a standstill in the fight for several long seconds. Gru and Imp arriving from the hallway and stopping as they see Skitter in peril. Shadowstalker starts laughing and then gets up and puts away the crossbow. And then Regent comes out.
Yes.
Yep.
He,
So you didn't hear it, but the crowd got to hear the full Titus clip there.
oh, oh, good.
So
Okay. I was wondering, like, there's sort of sounds I'm like, did he,
no, when I
anyways.
yeah.
It's an important thing to hear, a very important laugh.
Mm-hmm.
He ran his fingers through his hair, and Shadowstalker moved one hand, as if to do the same thing. But the hood she wore stopped her. She stepped away, and her movement seemed uncannily out of character. Maybe a bit of a slouch, a bit of swagger that hadn't been there before. Her eyes met mine. Totally got you, dork, she chuckled.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, Vale, I hope that that's the laughter you imagined when you read this chapter. Um,
I
because
mean, it was laughter I immediately imagined, which is why I sent you that clip, because I was like, oh, this would be the kind of dumb thing that Alec would do.
Vic says Alec has more swag than Sophia, confirmed.
It's true, yeah, a bit more swagger.
Oh my god. So what do we think about this chapter?
I mean, I think this chapter is really showing, hey, Taylor is willing to do some things that she would have found utterly repugnant just before the Leviathan fight because she's so desperate to get back in and get this ball rolling.
Yeah, she's like, well, she's all in.
Yeah, she says it. All in.
Mhm.
Putting all them chips in there.
I think it's pretty good. We're back to Taylor after an arc away from Taylor. Um, and we don't, necessarily get shown until next chapter, like the exact way she's back in the group, but we know kind of all we need to know. And like,
Mhm.
had we not seen the flashback, I could still imagine myself the scene pretty easily. You know.
Yeah, and I think uh, also interesting here is we finally get to see Regent's true power, so to speak,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which it was 2 arcs ago, but they had mentioned at the time like, "Hey, do you think your power could work on this guy?" And Regent's like, "Nah." Could you just imagine?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If he could control Leviathan, but that would be so like even if it worked, like let's just say that it like without a doubt works, which because of the way the power works, I don't think it could affect Leviathan at all. But let's say it
No,
does.
but then just imagine Leviathan would get to walk around with that swagger.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say he would have to be in proximity to Leviathan and actively affecting him for like even a normal person like average 2 hours maybe. So
Hmm.
like I don't know. That just sounds so ridiculously like. Imagine surviving next to Leviathan for 2 straight hours. Because he just
But then,
murderizes people so fast.
I mean, true. I'm not saying it would work, but just imagine.
Vic says probably like 12 hours, tbh. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, then he could, Leviathan around. Leviathan could slouch walk around the city with his arms crossed.
They could have sweet buddy adventures with Leviathan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we could see a sick matchup of Leviathan versus Behemoth. Maybe that'd be dope. I don't.
Hell yeah.
I think that Like, I think that Behemoth would win, but I'm not sure.
In like a knockdown, like slug fight, I think that Behemoth wins. He's just supposed to be incredibly, incredibly tough. And like what Leviathan brings to the table is mostly either large scale destruction in the form of like tsunamis and underwater pressure and stuff like that, and then just kinetically hitting people with water. And kinetic stuff does not work against Behemoth very well at all.
All right. I feel like he's the clever. I feel like he could come up with some crazy thing. I don't know. I don't know how to. You're probably right, but Leviathan. I like Leviathan. He's nuts.
Yeah, agreed.
Um. Let's see here. Vale says, "I don't know if I'd trust Regent with an Endbringer." True.
Oh, you don't trust our boy Regent? Look at him. He is totally trustworthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just heard him laugh. That's a trustworthy laugh.
Ha 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 ha. So I think we're good to move on to 10.2.
All right. Here in 10.2, we leap 3 days into the past. The Undersiders have a sweet new hideout in the docks. The entire area was devastated to the point that nobody wants to live there or even scavenge, but this building has a reinforced interior and amenities like power. We get to see Taylor's emotional reunion with the Undersiders in their new hideout. The whole gang is here, including Bitch's new dog, plural, and Brian's little sister. Alec has a reasonable reaction.
You gotta be kidding.
The dogs are held back from the front door by a gate, but one of them recognizes Taylor and wags its tail. Aw. That lasts until Bitch notices that Taylor is back and gives her a classic Bitch-style welcome, fist first.
It spoke volumes that while Lisa stepped forward so she could defend me, Gru and Alec didn't.
Aw. Bitch delivers a follow-up love kick, then grabs a plank of wood to use to carryingly do some real damage. Lisa intervenes.
Fuck you, Bitch snarled. She pointed at Brian. It's irritating enough that he wants to start ordering or giving orders and calling himself our leader. I'm not putting up with it from you, too. I do what I want, and what I want is to beat her face in.
What I really love about Bitch, she knows what she wants.
Yeah.
Anyways.
What a charmer.
Popping over the chat for a second, Phil says, it's kind of interesting how close a bad Leviathan visit is similar to a bad hurricane visit. And I think that's very much intentional. Leviathan is the most like direct kaiju sort of in Worm, where they stand in for these vast, unstoppable natural or human-caused disasters. And Leviathan really is sort of a hurricane tsunami duo. It's quite fun to sort of think of him that way, especially conceptualize his role in the story.
It's not as direct, but the behemoth fight that we see in the book is kind of reminiscent of media that is like Tokyo 8.0 or whatever, just things where the only thing is the earthquake. Like, you could just imagine that it just is an earthquake on that city on a massive scale, and like you would get similar results.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the fight is different, of course, because you can punch Leviathan, but you can't punch a hurricane. But the aftermath is essentially the same.
Right. And you can like fight Behemoth, but like at the end, the city still got earthquake.
Yes. Continuing onward, then Lisa asks for Brian's support, but he too is uncertain about Taylor. Bitch is having none of this, but when Taylor protests that she wasn't going to betray them after all, Brian reminds her that Lisa confirmed the story. Taylor responds.
Yep. No, I mean, I was going to betray you. I'm going to fucking kick her teeth in, Bitch shouted. Past tense, I raised my voice. I changed my mind.
I still love Bitch so much, just from the background shouting, I'm going to fucking kick her teeth in! Whenever Taylor says something she doesn't like.
Yeah.
But Brian is incredulous. Taylor spills it all, even the embarrassing bits. She explains how she changed her mind after the fundraiser, how she couldn't leave them or explain things to Danny. Of course, she couldn't explain things to her dad. That's the hard part. And now she wants back on the team. Lisa tries to support Taylor, says she'll vouch for her, but Brian interjects that Taylor can answer for herself. Taylor flounders. then brings up the mega huge favor.
I turned to Brian. You remember when we were on our way to your apartment? What happened? Which, that thing with the bully, or after that, the, awkward conversation? Hey, dork, Alec cut in. He's not the only one you have to convince. You can't omit details and leave us in the dark here. Yeah, Aisha added. Brian gave her an annoyed look.
See, I love how this sort of illuminates that Alec would already be fine with her being back on the team, I think. He doesn't really care that strongly, but when something interesting and juicy, some hot goss comes up, he's like, oh, no, now you have to convince me by giving me the deets. You can't get past here without telling me all about this.
Yeah.
Anyways, Taylor feels a little blush coming on.
I was going to jump to the chat for a second. Vale had said about the previous behemoth thing, especially if you add in a touch of volcano to the earthquake for spice. And then Vic said, Taylor's defense here isn't very good. Makes it sound convenient to just stay on the team. Vale says, agree. The timing is horrible too. Like if you put when she says she finally decided against all her or all their time together.
Yeah, like they went through the whole bank robbery and a bunch of fights before she's like, oh yeah, I guess I should not betray these people who have been acting as my friends.
Yeah, there is that aspect of things, but like maybe for someone who is like someone like Alec who is not very emotional compared to a regular person, then like he's able to think through that like Tattletale knew about it that whole time and didn't tell on her. So like there's something to that.
Mm. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, that's what I would have thought if I were him, cuz he's not emotionless, but he is pretty close. It's all under the surface and very far away. So, poor Alec. Anyway, so we were at. I let Brian know I was interested in him. Romantically. It was the truth.
Alec and Aisha fucking love it. Brian is still uncertain. Taylor can be quite the actor, especially when she's denying her own emotions. But Alec helpfully reminds him that Taylor is a terrible liar and not smooth at all.
I didn't lie exactly, I said, quiet. I just didn't tell you.
See there, not smooth at all.
Well,
you aren't helping, Taylor.
It's not smooth when people are mad at you, but I get what she's trying to say because it's like everybody is good. Well, not everybody is good at some type of lying, but even if you are good at some type of lying, you are probably bad at least one other type of lying because there are many like types of it. And like the kind of lying she does involves lying to herself to such a heavy degree that like I don't know, it's just different than I just don't think she could tell most types of lies.
Yeah, Vale says Regent literally just thinks she's a dork. This is all things a dork would do.
That's true too. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He's like, this loser.
Look at her.
Yeah. So then it's that could have been an act, Brian stressed. And even if it wasn't, it doesn't mean anything in the end.
You're tearing me apart, Brian.
Exactly.
Lisa starts in with a typical Lisa spiel. She tells Brian he's angry because it's a hell of a lot easier to believe that Taylor was a fake than to accept that she was being genuine. And Taylor just wants to go back to the way things were when she had a group of magic homies. But it's not that easy. Taylor reflects on everything that has happened so far. When had things been good? What does she really want? She really wants to help Dinah, but she can't do that effectively from the outside. Coil's power makes him difficult to attack.
Lisa had convinced me. I would only solve this by getting Coil in Coil's good graces, talking to him as someone he could respect and listen to. I couldn't do that without convincing these guys to let me back on the team.
Taylor says she wants back on the team, no matter what. So subject herself to invasive monitoring and restrictions, give her pay, whatever it takes. And Lisa wants her back. Alec wants her back, even if it's just so Brian won't be so crabby anymore. Aisha doesn't get a vote. Ha. Bitch says no. Brian eventually decides that despite possibly fucking up the team chemistry, they need the firepower. Bitch takes this about as well as can be expected.
They
Then
really
she
do need the
throws the shelf
firepower.
into the wall. She's like, bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Like, bitch is good, but Taylor is a whole nother level of both battlefield awareness and straight up uh, ability to take people out of the fight.
Vic is bringing us back to one of the greatest streams of all time, where we learned all about McDonald's, how to be a McDonald's employee and do whatever it takes. Yeah. So, Vale says,
Yeah.
it's actually a good question. What does Taylor really want underneath all the self-deception and layers of misunderstanding? She wants friends.
I mean, I think that's part of it. I think she wants friends and to be able to think of herself as a good person. And those two things are somewhat in tension with each other with this group. But she's still gonna try to reconcile that dissonance whatever way she can.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just got to she's doing something she doesn't want to do for a little while. So that she can do some good things in the future, and that's definitely what's happening. That nothing bad is happening.
Yep. Dale
Taylor has
says,
never done
in my
anything wrong.
opinion, she wants to take care of people who are helpless because it was her trigger event. She is predisposed to that being her number one goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. True. True.
Yeah, I think that is especially like a hot button for her. We see it with Dinah, like where hearing about Dinah just absolutely makes her flip out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's way too much. Anyways,
I think we were about.
Brian tells yeah, we're here, yeah. Brian tells Taylor that though they might be friends again in the future, it's trust that has to be rebuilt. It's not going to happen overnight. But hey, she's back on the team.
I had told myself I would rise above the likes of Sophia and Armsmaster. I was all too aware of their flaws, and first and foremost among them was arrogance, pride. So I'd swallowed mine.
Nice. And hey, surprise! This chapter is actually two shorter chapters crammed into a trench coat. You get the 2-for-1 deal. We move
Mm-hmm.
forward to present day, present time. The Undersires are busy getting risky. They're taking on a group of merchant looters. The gang members are all well armed, but unlike the better funded gangs, they're light on guns. And while they're desperate, they're not particularly well trained or brave. There's some risk in engaging them, but the Undersiders flex their powers and make short work of the miscreants. But then, who should arrive on the scene but the stunning heroine, Shadow Stalker? She immediately dispatches
Zam.
Tattletale and Drew with tranquilizer darts. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said Zam, like her
Zam!
action noise.
Oh, of course. Uh, she immediately dispatches Tattletale and Drew with tranquilizer darts, followed by snapping shots into Imp and Skitter. Skitter's costume blocks the shot, and she draws her baton, ready to defend her downed teammates. Skitter cannot close the distance before Regent, Bitch, and the nearest dog have all taken darts of justice. Skitter's baton attack proves utterly futile, passing right through Shadowstalker before she slams a tranquilizer into Skitter's shoulder, point blank. As Bitch passes out, she shouts a final order for her dogs to run. And with that, the battle is over. The Undersiders are defeated. The book is over. Ah, finally. Everyone can go home. It was a real bold narrative choice, showing how shockingly sudden defeat can be.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
can you believe that this is the last episode?
Hat tip to Wildbow. I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
Never saw it coming. Or maybe Regent was controlling Shadowstalker the entire time, and this was an elaborate setup to convince the PRT that the Undersiders really were defeated. The first officers on the scene have the appropriate reaction.
Holy shit! One of the PRT uniforms spoke.
The captain of the squad wants to follow procedure and secure the Undersiders by foaming them, especially because Imp is an unknown cape. Regent almost fumbles by describing a power that synergizes with Gru.
The girl with the horns, Mover 3, teleports through shadows. Shadowstalker lied. None of them can escape restraints on their own. But if Gru uses his power...
Yes. I love it. He's like, random power, teleports through shadows. They're like, oh, that works really well with Gru's power. He's like, fuck it. He
Yeah.
managed to cover by firing an additional dart into Gru, and by turning on that Shadow Stalker charm.
The uniform didn't back down. No. I want to know why you don't want them fully contained. Because I've been up since 5 in the morning. It's well past midnight now. And I'm going to have to start doing fucking paperwork the second we get these guys in a cell. I'm not allowed to walk away until they're in custody. So if I let you phone them, I'm going to have to wait another half hour to an hour for the solvent to get mixed and brought to them. 5 or 10 minutes for it to work. Fuck that. They're down. Listen to the hero who just took down a whole fucking team and get them in the truck.
Exactly. The PRT tosses the unconscious Undersiders into the paddy wagon. Tattletale confirms that they aren't being watched, and Regent keeps them updated on what Shadowstalker has seen. Taylor has some words for him, though.
Vic says the fact that they don't have solvent ready, embarrassing. I think the idea is that it's like once they mix it together, they have to use it or it goes bad.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also sort of the case with the containment foam, though, where like it's in some separate chambers inside the thing.
right,
You have to sort of like gush them together to make it into actual foam.
right, yeah. The PRT tosses, or no, it's you hit me way too hard. I murmured. Muscle memory. Regent replied. Blame her, not me.
Ah, yeah. Shadowstalker is just very used to hitting Taylor hard. Anyways, back at Ward's HQ, the Wards are astonished at Shadowstalker's coup. Weld isn't quite ready to bask in how fucking awesome she is, though.
For now, the accented male voice spoke. Just satisfy my curiosity. You know the pass. I can't do the voice. I just can't. I always fuck it up. You know the passwords we memorize. Yeah, he's gonna be New Zealand. Yeah, I know, Vic. It's highly embarrassing. Fuck the car.
Exactly.
Just satisfy my curiosity. You know the password we memorize each week, and you know why we memorize them, right? Yeah, Shadowstalker replied. One of the other boys spoke. For any interaction with any flag shifter or the boy paused. Master, oh! So Weld said. Keeping in mind that Regent is the highest rated master in the city, I'd like for you to give us this week's password. Yeah.
This is the first we see the shifter master protocols, which is definitely what they are called.
Okay, just to clear it up now, in all future things that I can think of, they're called Master Stranger protocols.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely
we
the
clearly
shifter
see
master.
The name right here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and they're definitely called shifters too. That's a word that's used.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, that's the first we hear about Regent's master rating being literally the highest in the city. But I mean, we just saw a demonstration of it working, and we can totally believe. Oh yeah, people would be appropriately afraid of this and have to take precautions around him or anyone who's been around him.
Yeah.
But Tattletale has supplied Regent with the appropriate password. Wild orders the PRT officers to offload the Undersiders and move them to holding cells. He still has words for Shadowstalker, though.
So the password, I remember it. It was Comanche 662.
Oh yeah.
So Weld nodded. This is good work, but it doesn't excuse or make up for what happened earlier. Whatever Shadowstalker replied.
Yeah.
No, this is serious. You assaulted a team. Nope, it slid off again. A team member. I'm not gonna let that slide.
I like how when you try to go Boston, it does slide immediately into like New Zealand. It's just it degrades right into Flight of the Conchords.
Oh my god, it's so bad. I said I was gonna practice and then I didn't. and then I'll do that again. I'm gonna practice, but don't worry, I won't. Uh,
Okay, good. I'm glad we have that confirmed.
yeah. Vic said, "You're losing
Anyway,
your way."
oh no! Vale says, Shifta. It's a Boston thing. Yeah.
Anyway, so
Skidder is surprised to hear Shadowstalker is a problem cape, in addition to being a problem person. Not that surprised, though. Weld presses Shadowstalker. She's going to have an unpleasant chat with Pigot, who will have to apologize to Kid Win. Regent, king among men, correctly guesses that it wasn't Kid Win. He's too easy of a target, too obviously punchable. But Weld is relentless.
who was it then? Weld asked. It took me a second to parse what he meant. Shadowstalker groaned. Fuck off! It's me! Hey! He turned, putting one hand on her shoulder to stop her. Oh, wait, we gotta switch. I forgot. Ah.
Oh!
It's right here. Yeah. Putting one hand on her shoulder to stop her mid-stride. Who was it? She glanced at the group. Clockblocker, Kidwin, Vista, the girl from the Endbringer fight who called herself Flechette. Clockblocker, she guessed.
Whoopsie.
Yup. Clockblocker or Vista. Make your pick. So yeah, they messed up. After like successfully navigating everything to a degree that seemed like ridiculous, there was still like Weld was just like, it's like Greg said, he was relentless.
Yeah, he kept pressing. He very clearly he felt something was wrong. Maybe it was like some way that Shadowstalker was holding herself, a bit of that Alex swagger and slouch coming through.
Well,
Something tipped him off,
he did. I think he did that right. I think it's just so unbelievable that she took down a whole team.
Yeah, he's like, you took down a whole team and none of them are dead?
That too. Heads up! Trap! Weld shouted. Anyway.
Nice.
So, chapter thoughts. Another pretty good one. I'm not as sold necessarily as everybody. I saw Vic kind of was negative on it too. But I don't like the flashback as much. I'm not sure how they could have done it different per se, but it just,
Yeah.
the fact that it's like the 2 chapters in a trench coat. I'm not super jazzed on that either. It just didn't feel as good as the last few transitions. Sorry, go on.
I think I'm going to save my thoughts for that until we get to audience participation.
Yeah, fair.
Because there's a discussion there, but we can save that for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
As for more straightforwardly, this is the chapter where we get to the things are about to really fucking kick off because they're right in the ward's HQ, and someone's just shouted trap. It's about to get real. They're about to throw down.
Yeah. Vale says, I wish the entire infiltration plan had worked so we could have seen phase 2, the Undersiders put in cells while still faking unconsciousness. I don't think that they would have gone that far.
No, yeah.
I think the whole trap thing, while not ideal, was kind of fine. They were already going to flip out like 30 seconds later, you know?
Yeah, it didn't throw off their plans too much.
Yeah.
As long as Tattletale is right about all the people who are here, it'll go off without a hitch.
All in, Taylor says. Yeah, I mean, she meant all in different jail cells.
Yeah, that's what that phrase was definitely meaning. I also sort of like how during the flashback we get to see Bitch is very unhappy with the situation. She is just utterly dissatisfied with the new status quo with Taylor being back on the team.
Some would say she's flipping out.
Yeah, she was ready to like grab a piece of wood and bash Taylor's head in.
Yeah. I think that the fight where they all fake getting defeated by Shadowstalker is really funny and like silly.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hilarious that fight is so much shorter than any other fight we've seen described, including the one with Lung that Taylor has at the very start of her career. Like, This fight was by far the shortest fight I think we're probably going to see in this entire series. It's so short, just like, haha, Shadowsticker shows up and beats them all easily.
Yeah, yeah, it's I guess there are a couple fights that are almost this short, like the Uber and Leet fight. They beat them in like two little
Oh, that's
moves.
true. Well, that's
Um,
Uber and Leaf though. This is
yeah,
major players.
yeah. I just think it's like kind of funny. That's their total stomp that they get. But
I mean, even in that one, they spend a decent amount of time essentially like yakking at each other.
yeah, yeah. They banter, and there's no banter in the Shadow Stalker fight.
Nope.
The fakey cakes one. Um, okay. Let me think. I want to jump to this new section here. Uh, arc stuff, where I talk about and obviously add any thoughts that you have, but
Mm-hmm.
how the chapters relate to the arc that they're in, etc. And I said this arc has a character-focused opening chapter and leans on the mystery of Regent's real power, ending with the big reveal that also answers the question of why they kidnapped Shadowstalker, and it hints at what they'll be trying this arc. Then 12.2 reveals their reckless plan, showing them starting to go for it. Then cliffhangers going wrong with the start of the fight. It also, provides that the whole flashback first half that circles back to connecting the dots between Arc 8 and Arc 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, these chapters are really the rising tension of the arc. We see the conflict set up, and we see the conflict just really sparking at the end of 10.2, where all the pieces are in place. Now it's time to knock them all together.
Mm-hmm. And so Bill said, I'm just glad it was Aisha thrown on top of Taylor. And Vic says, I'm not. I love Alec X Taylor. Um, so, I mean, imagine if Aisha was shipped with Taylor. It'd be the true Dark Horse favorite.
Aisha thrown on top of Taylor? I thought it was Imp.
I don't know. Well, either way. Let's see here. So, characters. We got Taylor. I put this. I'd finished unpacking the wires, so I picked up the empty box and entered the living room to put one box inside the other to minimize the mess. I think it's a funny, just a great Taylor moment, making sure that the busted apartment they're going to be in for 2 hours is tidy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we get to see a decent amount of Taylor at the start of 10.2. I want to say like she is spilling her guts. She's trying to convince them to let her back on the team, but I think even in that she's not really telling them everything. Like I think she told Lisa everything, and then Lisa convinced her, yeah, you had to sort of be on the inside to make this work. But she's still omitting things to the rest of them. She's not telling Gru, for example, yeah, I'm sort of in this so I can also try to save Dinah. She is omitting even that in this moment.
Yeah, yeah. She's still doing the thing that she's been doing the whole time, just slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh boy, Taylor. Oh boy. Um, she's going through it. I think that 10.1 is really trying for Taylor. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read this quote and you can say what you're going to say about it. The LEDs at the ends of the extension cords lit up as we plugged each cord into the generator, glowing a dim orange. Gru stood, then pushed the refrigerator away from the wall so we could unplug it and plug the appliance into the generator. I couldn't be sure if it was to ensure a steady current through the wire or because he wanted a working fridge.
So yeah, I thought that this paragraph was really compelling. Just like little moments and setting details in the story like this, and the fact that like he's doing a thing and he doesn't like explain it, but she's just kind of like, yeah, he probably knows what he's doing. He's done like a lot of weird like things like this. And I don't know. I just think it's great how they kind of interact as a team.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that we get to see a decent sort of like if you were just sort of dropping into reading Worm, you have a decent idea of what a lot of characters are like by reading 10.2 because you sort of get to see them mm, really sort of putting it out there. And Brian is there too, where we see him, especially in this in 10.2, as being a person who is stepping up and trying to take sort of a leadership role in the team. I think we even get Bitch saying something about, "Hey, he's trying to give us orders like he's a leader, and I have to listen to you too."
right,
Sort of
right,
moment.
exactly. Um, yeah, and I think that that's going to continue going forward because they go from a mostly leaderless structure to um, pretty much him being the leader for a while.
Hmm.
Um,
And this is the first note of Gru's fraught relationship with refrigerators.
yeah. Um, I also pulled up this. He was as restless and agitated in relaxation as Bitch was when awake. And I think that this is true now, and like as things happen in the story, it will get like much, much worse for him. But this is like a trait that he already has, and I wanted to highlight it because it's like so in the forefront later. Uh,
Yeah. Um.
and then
Yeah, and you'd also mentioned like he
pulled
sort of
a
was tossing and turning in sleep while Shadowstalker is busy screaming. I
yes,
guess
yes.
even
There's also
Gru,
that.
who's normally fairly unflappable, uh,
Well, because he's
uh,
not. He's alone from his own perspective. Like obviously Taylor's actually there with him, but he thinks he's alone, so he's not making like a show of uh, stoicism.
I see. Yeah, doesn't consider that Taylor sees everything around her all the time. No, it's not creepy.
Yeah, she's bugged them. Um,
Uh-huh.
so moving on to Imp, we got this whole section.
Yeah,
Copping
I
a
can give
feel
us.
grew. We'll go back and forth. I'll
Okay.
be Imp. Copping a feel grew. Imp mocked as she let herself half spin and collapse lengthwise on the couch.
Making sure it isn't tight enough to cut off her circulation.
Ah, you an expert on that stuff? I didn't take you for a bondage freak. She stretched.
He sighed. Just get the generator.
I just laid down.
So stand up and then get the generator, he ordered.
Yeah, they their new teammate is quite the troublemaker already, but
I love Ib. She's great.
yeah.
And she
Uh,
has a really great power. Mover 3 teleports through shadows.
well, we don't know what her power is yet, but supposedly, according to fake Shadow Stalker, according to Regent, her power is to move through shadows. So, which
Mhm.
it would be a cool power.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
definitely. I mean, it would be even more Shadow Stalker than Shadow Stalker.
that's what I was thinking when the line was being read out. It's like describes a thing that would have the name Shadow Stalker, said Shadow Stalker.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, but we get to see her. Yeah, she's her name is Imp, but she is also like it's very on point for her personality to be imp-ish.
yeah. I mean, she's a total ham. She's like moving around all slow, pretending that the thing's super heavy, then like wheezing out like sighs of relief. She's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a real pity that she never got to meet Mass Protector.
Yeah. A battle between them. Oh boy. Anyway, so then we got Rachel. I pulled out this section. Do you want to read this?
Sure. Bitch's bulldog, Bentley, was lying on the couch with his head nestled in Bitch's armpit. I was on chapter 3 of my book when he began snoring, surprising me with how steady and loud the sound was. Sirius, the lab I'd met on a prior occasion, lay between Bitch's legs, his head lying across her belt buckle. A setter was curled up at the base of the sofa with Angelica. I couldn't remember its name. Bitch looked so peaceful here. It was strange seeing her relax and rest so easily when day to day, even before recent events, she seemed to be on edge to a degree that would drive most people to insanity. It wasn't aggression or anxiety, exactly, but some combination of the two.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see Rachel in these sorts of moments, and we also get to re-meet Bentley and Sirius, who will both be like pretty consistently here going forward. I see. I feel like Bentley and Sirius are in like a lot of scenes
Mm,
um, throughout the book, but like
yeah, one
people think
thing.
of Brutus, Judas, and Angelica because of they're the first ones, but like they're kind of not
Yeah, but
in that
we get
much of
some
it.
new good we get some new good boys and girls.
Yep, for sure. I guess moving on to Lisa. Oh, I guess we should also say
Before we
Rachel is like obviously has this really contentious relationship with Taylor now, and it's like they're like Taylor's her enemy, you know.
not just Taylor, I think that the fact that, she has a vote, but her vote ends up essentially not mattering because she's outvoted by the rest of the team is a note of disharmony in in the group that's going to have to be resolved.
Right. Yeah.
Also, want to quickly mention what Vale said in chat. He said, "Jack of Shadows" by Roger Zelazny. Main character can travel through shadows. I love that book and the idea of the power. Yeah, Zelazny has a lot of really cool fiction. If no one's ever read his works, I especially love the Chronicles of Amber, which was, I think, what most people know when they think of him. But he's a great author.
Hmm. I might check that out. I like the idea of moving through the shadows. Um. So I think I've said all I had to say about Rachel. Are you good?
Yep.
Okay. So Lisa, it's clearly the follow up to the last chapter for Taylor in Arc 8, where she talked to Lisa on Captain's Hill at the monument. She convinced Taylor to come back and is supporting her through the reconciliation. And I don't know, her motivations are pretty much the same as ever.
Yeah, we don't see that much of her here. It's mostly just her speaking in support of Taylor.
Hmm. Yeah. Vale had said Amber 1 through 5 is amazing. 6 through 10 I still love, but not in the best ever tier. Hmm.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I'm fine with moving on from Lisa. I don't really have that much more to say. But
Uh huh.
yeah. So Alec, I feel like Alec makes a really good showing these two chapters. Aside from like no powers involved, he just talks way more. He's way more involved. There's more wisecracks. He's on Taylor's side really early, which helps smooth things over.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, he is more animated here. I have to wonder if he and Rachel have a similar sort of vibe in that way, where when the world is a little bit off kilter, it's sort of falling apart. They're actually more comfortable with that than they are with normal society.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, it's maybe just because, like, a combination of, like, interesting things are happening in the flashback and then in the present day stuff, then, like, he's about to use his power, slash, has just used his power in this way for the first time in, like, presumably a whole year,
Hmm.
possibly longer. Vic says, I wonder if the new crew member helps him to be himself and more open too. Yeah, that might be true.
They certainly seem to egg each other on a bit, even in this little bit that we see them.
Yeah,
Because like when Taylor's like, "Oh yeah, remember that awkward conversation?" Alika's responds with, "Hey, you got to convince me too. Tell me all the deets." And Aisha's like, "Yeah, yes, those please."
right.
And then when they do get the deets, they're both on the same page then as well.
Right. Um, So, and yeah, we'll talk about his power in the power section.
Yep.
Um, so Aisha, I guess is living with Brian and Rachel and Alec and Lisa, and knows that they're like supervillains. And she's like, I knew the bug girl was the bug girl from before in the apartment. I knew the whole time. It was so obvious. Um,
Yeah, you think Leviathan wrecked Brian's careful apartment plans?
yeah, I mean, he had everything set up. It was pretty sweet, and then it was a non-existent building. Um, I mean, they
The
never say
real
it got
tragedy.
crunched, but they like never mention it again.
Yep,
Um, so like,
it's gone.
yeah, it's gone. Because several chunks of the city just got wiped out totally. Um, but yeah, so Aisha's probably gonna be in the story more. Um,
Hooray!
because like the whole idea of him needing Coil to get Aisha is no longer true now that things have sort of fallen apart and he's able to take care of her without needing to go through the system. So in a way, Coil's hold over Brian is like lessened now that Aisha is actually just like living with him.
Hmm.
Nailing it. They're living their best lives. So Sophia, some bad things happened to Sophia these chapters.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Yeah. Uh I mean, like having Alex's power used on you. I mean, I'm sure some people would be like, it wouldn't be that bad, but it sound. I'm with Taylor. It sounds like a nightmare. Um,
It really, really does. Being trapped in your own body while it pilots around,
yeah,
you'd have to be some sort of Capricorn to, empathize with that.
yeah. You wouldn't want to have to. You don't want to have to put up with that.
No.
Um, like the softest disendorsement of Alex's behavior. You don't want to have to put up with that.
It's unfortunate what he does.
Yeah. Um,
But as for Sophia herself, we get to see, at least a little bit that even when she's really in a corner, she still at least puts up a bit of a fight because she tries to pretend to be unconscious, looking for a way out. Just Tattletale puts an end to those shenanigans.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then for the rest of the time, she's not really herself.
Yeah.
Although we do get to see, I like the bit where Regent's like, hey, or where Taylor's like, hey, you hit me really hard. And Regent responds with, it's just her muscle memory. She is so used to like fucking beating people up. She does it by reflex.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this is
Good
a
person.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fake Weld quote. I didn't choose the Cape Life. The Cape Life chose me. Weld, probably.
Also technically accurate. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. We get to see Weld being a real smart guy. Uh, over here.
Yeah, he really presses. He doesn't. I mean, Shadow Stalker is normally a sort of person who'd be braiding because you push on her, she's going to be annoying and push back and be bitchy at you and all that nonsense. But he insists. He doesn't let up. He continues to really press it when he thinks something is off.
Mm-hmm. You know what? There's this little section that I just realized I want to talk about for the powers knowledge. I'm just gonna type a tiny note. Uh,
All right. Well, while you do that, anything else you want to say about Weld?
No, I'm good with what we said. Weld is I mean he's the fandom's boyfriend. So what can we say? Um
Yeah.
anyway,
We can
powers
move on to
knowledge.
powers, knowledge, and world building. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So for Imp, I pulled out. I hadn't known her to rest in the 3 days I'd known her. I could almost believe she was one of the capes that didn't need to sleep, but the theory would have felt a lot more tidy if I could connect it better to one of her powers. One of her powers?
It's almost
Um,
like you don't remember her sleeping for some reason.
hmm. The girl with the horns? Mover 3. Teleports through shadows. Shadow Stalker lied. Um,
Or told the truth. Who can
or
tell?
told the truth. So, one
That's the
of
best
her
kind of lie.
several many powers. Yeah. we we don't know. It could be anything. Maybe Alec was
She
telling the
has many
truth.
powers. Lead to gold. Trolls to gold. Frag trolls.
Exactly. Um, so we'll learn more about Imp later. But with Alec, we've got. I guess I will just mention it is that old school information warfare concept from earlier in the book, where the powers, lying about what your powers are is very useful, and Tattletale keeps up a facade about her powers for like years. So
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain powers that lend themselves more or less to it, and you can always have some sort of deception with a lot of powers, but especially people who are powers that are more intangible, things like thinkers, masters, strangers, they are the
yeah,
ones who especially are able to and benefit from obscuring what their power exactly does.
yeah, like from the PRT side, like just imagine like conceptualizing Coil. Like, what does he do? How do you figure it out? I don't know what he
Yeah,
does. It could be anything.
it really could. It's so hard to parse out, but we do thankfully have Tattletale who
Yeah.
uh, is able to suss out a lot of those things for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, very useful to the narrative.
Mhm.
We got Alec. Little section here. It was the you do a Weld quote. I'm done doing Bastin.
Okay, park the car. So, Will said, keeping in mind that Regent is the highest ranked master in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um. So Alec, uses his master power because they said, in Arc 9, I think it's something like they don't even say what it is. They're just like, oh my god, there's a master with that high of a rating. Blah.
yeah, I think yeah. Will's looking down the Understars list. He's like, wow, there's so many masters, and this one has such a fucking high rating.
Yeah, it's there's the Undersiders, 3 master classifications in one team. Only one of whom is any particular concern. Investigations into 2 members have yeah. So they
Yeah, yeah. Only one of them is of concern. Don't worry about the members of the team; they aren't important.
it's just
Definitely not.
crazy to me from Pigo's perspective to be like the person who put bugs up Clockblocker's nose and could like kill a crowd all at once, no problem. And like then also about Rachel, like the person with the giant like leaping monsters, no problem.
Yeah, because I mean, Taylor feels like the kind of person like if she just like flipped out full carry style, she could just kill everyone within a several block radius, and then she can walk around and keep doing that,
Yeah, it's pretty bonkers.
and she can just keep doing it until like you fucking shoot her down with a sniper or legend or whatever.
Yeah. I think if it was like her without any backup, then like the PRT could take her down quite quickly if she started doing that. Because they'd
Yeah,
just
for
be
sure.
like, and now we kill you. So
But I mean, even
it
in
would
her like
already
best
have,
response,
it gone off in whatever
yeah,
area.
it's like having a bomb go off and destroying like the 2 block radius of city worth of people is extremely deadly.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I think part of what she's saying is supposed to be like they've never done anything that bad
Hmm.
ish, but yeah, which I guess Taylor hasn't, but I think from her perspective, I think wouldn't she see Rachel as like probably an even more unfair assessment than
Yeah,
yeah,
because on the file, like, yeah, she has committed murder, so
pretty evil. But anyway, so we can move on. We can move on. It was a big reveal. His power is to control people's muscles and bodies. And Alec is living his best life again now that he's controlled a lady.
Oh
It
yeah.
doesn't have to be a lady. It could be anyone, really. But he likes controlling
Yeah,
people.
Vale says most humans are incredibly dangerous. Yeah, but there's a sort of like difference between someone, I don't know, who is dangerous in the immediate area, like a browbeat, who could go and punch you really hard, versus someone like, I don't know, Ash Beast, who is like a continuous super strong dust storm everywhere around him, and it never stops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, there's also Mush.
There's
Um,
always also much.
Vale says Leet
Leak
could
could
destroy
destroy
a
a city.
city. Yeah,
Sure.
that's true. I think they take Leet too lightly because I don't know. Tinker powers can get crazy. But anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, he just has to. They already know he's very much a grab bag tinker, and he just has to do one thing that's particularly dangerous, and it wouldn't be like super hard. There's a lot of things that, even sort of in the mundane sense, can be super dangerous to a fairly wide area. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think I've said all I need to say about Alec. How about you?
yep,
So with Shadowstalker, I wanted to bring up the powers with heavy downsides. Like the downside of weak to electricity, it sounds like, okay, that's workaroundable and like that's not too big of a deal. But then once they use this to trap her, it's so bad.
yeah. I mean, it also means that you think about like, hey, I go intangible and ghost through walls. Not quite so easy for her because she has to be pay attention because most walls in modern buildings are going to have a bunch of wires in them that she can't really go through. All sorts
Yeah,
of trouble.
and
Then there's another downside that besides that, which is that when she's intangible, she absorbs a lot of the like particulate in the air very easily,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which makes her weak to things like, I don't know, pepper spray.
Right, which gets used against her when she's captured. Yeah.
Hmm. Um,
Whereas like there are a lot of powers, like let's say Taylor's power. The downside is that you're a creep. But like that's not that bad of a downside in a cape fight. Some would
yeah,
say
I
it's
was
an
also
upside.
thinking like, though, like there's other places where it could be trouble, like if she had to go and take down one of the drug warehouses, for example. If there's any of that stuff in the air when she's ghosting
Mm,
around,
gets
it
all
could be real trouble.
cocained directly to the bloodstream.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, yeah. Her power has a lot of downsides. It's a pretty cool power, and then it's just like got so many problems. Uh, and there
On
are a
the
lot of
plus
powers
side,
like that. Mm-hmm.
she probably really loves hot box in her room.
Jesus. Yeah. Um, that would be crazy. Anyway,
She is not chill enough for that, let me tell you.
yeah. Um, no, she'd go the cocaine in your blood route before she tried to ingest weed ever.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's all. Moving on to the audience participation. So thoughts on the flashback chapter, pros, cons, all thoughts accepted. I'll read the ones on the Discord first, and then after I've done that, we'll talk about Greg's thoughts about each one as we go, and then your final verdict and thoughts, etc.
Sure. Do you want to do Vale and I do Victoria, or vice versa?
Vice versa. I think I haven't read. I only read the first line of Victoria's, but I think that I basically agree with it.
Okay, so I'll read
Probably.
Vale's.
Mm-hmm.
Vale says, it's a perfect chapter. First, it fills in all the blanks to level set where the Undersiders and Taylor are now. Second, it calls to immediate action in the usual ultra chaotic Undersiders way. Every interaction with Taylor is explored through conversation. We can see exactly where she stands with each member and how they feel about her on the team again. We know how she claims to feel about it, and suspect it's probably mostly true because of her motivations. And she does say please. Polite Taylor is on her best behavior. Dinah could say 88.2098203% chance she is being honest. It's fantastically well written, does everything that it needs to set us up for what's to come.
Yeah. Um, I do think the dialogue is really good in the flashback. Like I definitely agree with that. The fact that I think the stuff, Rachel chiming in periodically, then like Alex spurring things on, and same with Aisha, and then like Brian and Taylor being the main sort of conflict point. So yeah, I think that stuff is good. It's just like kind of the format itself that rubs me the wrong way a little bit. But I'm gonna read
Yeah. Go and
Vic's.
read Victorious and we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't a fan of it breaking format when it wasn't really needed. In my opinion, we could have rearranged the chapters to be chronological order or skip the flashback portion entirely. I feel like the only part that's really important and couldn't be told through recollection was seeing Aisha with the crew for the first time, then Taylor admitting to everyone her feelings for Gru, though I did appreciate some positive Alec moments of him sticking up for his friend Taylor. Good setup for the Alec interlude later. It's clear to me that Wildbow was still experimenting with different formatting styles. I can't remember him doing flashbacks in this way ever again when we're in Taylor POV. I think that's right. I can't think of any examples aside from this chapter. Other people have flashbacks, but not necessarily Taylor.
Yeah. It's definitely a bit of an awkward sort of little timeline snarl where we're, at point B in the timeline, jump back to A and then forward to C afterwards. Um,
And it's
which
not like
can
Taylor's
work.
thinking this in like a prompted way. It's like literally we're seeing a previous scene, which
Mm-hmm.
like most of the time when there's something kind of like this, we're either in an interlude that's kind of about different points in someone's life, or we're like in Ward, there's a segment very early on where there's like a PTSD flashback from an emotion power hitting somebody. So you get stuff like that, but that is from the perspective of someone having a memory.
Yeah. When you do something like this, when you sort of mess up the timeline so that viewers, so to speak, are having to jump around and recontextualize what's happening and think about when it's happening, you typically want it to be for a good reason, for something in that flashback to either be directly triggering that something before, directly trigger that flashback, or have something in that flashback directly lead into something that you want to do afterwards. So in that context, I'm not certain this is really that great. I think he could have just written it in the straightforward order and it would have worked pretty well.
I
You
think
could even have
the main
go
argument
ahead.
I would say that for keeping it this way is that I think 10.1 is a really good chapter how it's presented. So it's like hard for me to say that it would be better to start with the previous stuff. It's a tough
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like I could it's easy to sit here and critique when you're not writing this stuff. But I
Hmm.
wonder like if you couldn't have put the reconciliation with the Undersiders at the end of arc 9 and have that be the climax of that arc. So you'd have a bunch of the Wards chapters, and then you end off with returning to Taylor and her reconciliation with the Undersiders. You
Right.
could do that.
I think maybe I guess what Arc 9 is like a pretty tight look at a six-person team with a chapter apiece. But I think if
Mhm.
you did six interludes and then a Taylor chapter as a finale chapter, as like a complete inversion of the first arc, almost like,
Exactly. Where Taylor is the interlude this time.
yeah, yeah. So that
Yeah,
could
I
that could be
mean,
a thing.
I don't know. It's one of those things where like looking at it afterwards, I'm like, I think you could rewrite this to be a bit more clear, but it works fine. Like it's not a terrible sin or anything like that.
Right, right,
I
right.
think it works. I think this particular chapter 10.2 is a bit awkward in the fact that it's it's split into bits that feel like they probably should have been two distinct chapters, maybe,
If it was
or
earlier in the
you
book,
could have
they straight up
rearranged the
would have
bits.
been two chapters. Like that's also another thing.
Hmm.
So, because like the chapters in the early book were as short as the two halves of this, so yeah, it's just like
Yeah.
a little bump in the road. Um,
I mean, like again, it's a very little bump. I don't really mind it that much. It's just,
yeah, it's
and
just what we're
it's
talking
made
about.
up for, as we mentioned,
Mm
by
hmm
some really great character building, especially with the conversation between. the understanders and Taylor as she is making a case for rejoining the team.
Right.
I think, as Vela mentioned, I really like especially the way that like bitch interjects in the middle, where she's just shouting in the background, "I'll fucking kill her!"
Right, yeah.
And you're like, yeah, there's bitch. Uh-huh.
Yeah, true. Cool. I think that's about all we have to say on that. Vale says, "Thank you for the clarification. I thought hotboxing a room meant farts." No,
Well, you know,
I'm glad
for a
that it doesn't.
showstopper,
Maybe it
it
does.
might. She might get high on her own supply.
Yeah. My word. So the question for next week is for 10.4 specifically, make up a stupid thing for Kid Wingun to have done in this chapter instead of like the bouncing laser or the flamethrower. That's right. There's Kid Win.
Oh my god, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Bouncing lasers.
So Kid Win has some pretty neat little guns and things, and I think it would be fun for you to make up a fake one that he would have had in your version.
Okay.
So I will probably change up the wording on this a little bit before I post it because it's pretty rough right here.
It's funny you say that, Victoria. Yeah, Victoria says, "Oh my god, Firex is coming up." I actually, I had read a little bit forward since Cancel had asked me about, have been looking for things like descriptions of the board headquarters, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's everyone's favorite parahuman, Fire Axe."
Yeah, Imp's power, a flaming axe.
Yeah, she's not a mover after all. She's a striker. Oh my god.
Oh my word. Vale says, Kid Win weapon. Oh, why have an axe on fire? I don't understand, but I'll go with it. Why they have an axe on fire? I don't understand, but I'll go with it. Yeah, that was so funny in We've Got Worm when there was that misunderstanding. It's a classic.
Yeah, we'll have to take a picture of your little Fire Axe character card and post
oh
it on the
yeah,
Discord.
that's a thing too. We had played a single session of like a tester for Greg doing his own, your own little system. Would you say, or was it like mostly
it was
based
very
off
like
of
rules light RPG for worm tabletop gaming, essentially.
Yeah, and I had a character named Fire Axe for that one session because I knew I wasn't gonna keep playing him, so we could just make a meme character, and so yes, he's just like a fireman. It's very silly.
It's very silly.
But we will upload it. I just keep forgetting to take a picture of it. Anyway. So, do you have any final thoughts before I start up the music and start outroing us?
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay. So, Vale says, I want to play the Parahumans world so bad. They're in the Parahumans world. Yeah. Be good to do a tabletop sometime. Vale says, thanks all and take care. So I'll read out, we got our Discord link in the stream description as well as the YouTube channel description. The music used in this episode for the intro and outro is UFO 2 Edit by CO.AG Music. You can find them on YouTube and the link is in the description. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. There's also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. So, and Vic saying bye! So yeah. Bye for now. See people next week.
Thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure.